very warm welcome. You're watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Let's get started. Our top story tonight comes from West Asia. The Pentagon has now confirmed that the United States is sending troops and one of its most advanced anti-missile systems to Israel. But what would that mean for American involvement in the escalating conflict, and what would that mean for the entire region, which is already on the boil? What would the implications be? That's coming up in just a bit, and here's a look at what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. China is daring Taiwan all over again, but how far will it really go? Is Europe getting tired of Volodymyr Zelensky? We tell you why this question is being asked. Is life possible on Europa, Jupiter's moon? We tell you all about the NASA mission seeking to find answers. All this and more coming up. It is official. America is turning up the heat in a region already on edge. The Pentagon has confirmed that the U.S. is sending troops and one of its most advanced anti-missile systems to Israel. A move that will deepen U.S. involvement in the escalating conflict in West Asia. Amid expectations of an imminent Israeli assault on Iran, and even as Israel faces increasing criticism for targeting UN peacekeepers in Lebanon. This is basically the US showing its ironclad support for its ally. But the question is, what does this mean for the entire region? Let's just break this down for you step by step. Here's what happened. On Sunday, the Pentagon confirmed that the US is sending its THAAD defense system. THAAD stands for Terminal High Altitude Area Defense. The battery is used to intercept and destroy enemy missiles. One THAAD battery consists of 6 truck-mounted launchers, 48 interceptors, that is 8 per launcher, radar surveillance, radar, and a tactical fire component. THAAD basically employs kinetic energy to destroy missiles. That's its unique feature. Just to put it simply, the system does not carry explosive warheads. Instead, it destroys targets using kinetic energy. And it's the only US system capable of intercepting targets inside and outside the atmosphere. It has far greater range than the Patriot system or Israel's state-of-the-art Iron Dome. So this is a big step up for Israel, in fact. What's more, the THAAD system is so complex that it requires a crew of 94 personnel, a crew of trained 94 personnel. That's the typical number of troops required to operate this anti-missile defense system. The system is specifically meant for anti-ballistic missile defense, and it could help Israel better defend itself against a future Iranian attack if Iran decides to respond to any Israeli strike. So one can imagine how significant this new deployment is. Basically, it means US soldiers could actively engage in fighting between Israel and Iran on Israeli soil. The last time the US sent the THAAD system to Israel was in 2019 for an exercise. Shortly after October 7 attack by Hamas last year, the US sent the THAAD system to West Asia to an undisclosed location. This is the THAAD's first operational deployment in Israel. And maybe you are wondering, why THAAD? Why did the Biden administration decide to send its most advanced missile system to Israel? You see, with Israel preparing to respond to Iran's massive missile barrage, particularly following the death of the Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah, they say that this deployment of the system will basically bolster Israel's defenses. The Iranian authorities, in fact, have been warning that any Israeli aggression, including potential strikes on Tehran's nuclear facilities, would provoke a forceful response. In fact, on Monday, Iran dismissed talks with the US. Tehran said that it currently sees no grounds for indirect talks with the United States via intermediary Oman. In June, remember, Iran said that it had held indirect talks with the United States via Oman, despite having no diplomatic relations with its enemy. Speaking with reporters in Oman's capital, the Iranian foreign minister reportedly said, and I'm quoting, "Currently, we don't see any ground for these talks until we can get past the current crisis. The process," he said, "had been halted due to the specific conditions of the region." Remember, on the 1st of October, Iran fired 200 missiles at Israel in what it said was retaliation for the killing of pro-Iran leaders in the region. Israel has vowed to respond, and while it is preparing for its response, Israel had requested the US for arms and ammunition, something that it has solicited over the past year during its war against Hamas in Gaza. According to reports, it would take at least a week to get the THAAD system, as well as the necessary troops, to Israel. And the move will also see American troops operating the ground-based interceptor in Israel. When asked about it on Sunday, Joe Biden said only that he had ordered the Pentagon to deploy the system to defend Israel. And while the system represents the first U.S. troop deployment to Israel since the war in Gaza started, the U.S. military did build a temporary pier off the coast of Gaza. This was in the month of May. It was meant to rush humanitarian aid to the enclave. It was dismantled in July after weeks of damage from the rough seas. And late last month, the Pentagon said that it would send a few thousand American troops to West Asia as Israel intensified its attacks on Hezbollah in Lebanon. And now, with the move confirmed on Sunday, senior Pentagon officials are reportedly debating whether the increased U.S. military presence in the region will contain the war as they had hoped or inflame it further. You see, in recent weeks, several Pentagon officials have expressed concern that Israel has been waging an increasingly aggressive campaign against Hezbollah, knowing that an armada of American warships and planes stand ready to help in case Iran provokes a war. According to reports, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Charles Q. Brown Jr., raised the issue in meetings at the Pentagon and at the White House. He has questioned the effect of expanded American presence in the region on overall combat readiness, on the ability of the U.S. military to respond quickly to conflicts, including with China and Russia. And reports say that he, along with U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin and other officials, have tried to balance containing the conflict and emboldening Israel in the process. In fact, on Saturday, the U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin spoke with the Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant to express his deep concern about Israeli forces firing on UN peacekeeping positions in Lebanon. Yet, Israeli jets continue to hover over Lebanon. Israeli airstrikes continue to hit Lebanon. So what really is Israel and America's state of play here? What's going on? The Pentagon says that the deployment of the THAAD defense system is aimed at defending Israel and Americans in Israel from further missile attacks by Iran. But won't deploying the THAAD system continue this tit-for-tat in West Asia? Remember, this mission marks the first significant deployment of American troops to Israel since the war in Gaza started. It also comes just 3 weeks before the U.S. presidential election, in which U.S. involvement in the conflict has been a polarizing issue on the campaign trail. U.S. officials have been encouraging Israel to avoid targeting Iran's nuclear sites out of fear that it could spark an even larger escalation, an escalation that could upend the global economy. We all saw what happened after the Ukraine war. The world is still reeling from it. So then, doesn't the deployment of the THAAD missile system add more fuel to the fire that is already burning in West Asia? Remember, the U.S. has already sent more than 50,000 tons of armaments and military equipment to Israel since the start of the war. Now, both presidential nominees, Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump, find themselves unable to avoid the subject ahead of the November elections. Both have vowed to defend Israel while expressing support for a swift end to the war. But if there is one key takeaway here, it is this: the conflict in West Asia has deeply divided the Democratic Party. Young voters and Arab Americans are criticizing Vice President Kamala Harris for not calling for restrictions on American arms to Israel. Republicans, on the other hand, have attacked the Biden administration for criticizing Israel's military tactics following Hamas's October 7 attack. Still, despite disagreements between President Joe Biden and the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, the president's decision to deliver the THAAD system represents another example of his willingness, perhaps, to trust Netanyahu and give him the benefit of the doubt. And in a way, it shows that Biden would rather use carrots and not sticks to control Israel's war conduct. On Friday, the Biden administration imposed economic sanctions on Iran's petroleum industry, targeting Tehran's fleet of tankers in the hope that the move would dissuade a strike on Iran's energy assets. But putting American troops in Israel amid an impending attack basically increases the risk of American casualties. And if that happens, the U.S. could be dragged even further into the widening conflict. And what would happen if an Iranian missile hits a U.S. soldier, for example? There is a high probability that the U.S. would take kinetic action against Iran. You see, for the past year, the Biden administration has decided against putting troops on the ground out of safety concerns for U.S. forces and fears of being dragged into the conflict. And now America seems to be putting that theory to test. Even if the THAAD battery defeats any and all missiles headed its way, the Israeli military still cannot guarantee the safety of the troops from drones. So then, has America turned up the heat in West Asia with its THAAD move? And will America follow Israel into war with Iran? We will have to wait and watch. On to some breaking news coming in right this minute. India has withdrawn its High Commissioner from Canada. This is after the Trudeau government in Canada linked him and other Indian diplomats to an investigation where they are persons of interest. As per the latest coming in, the Indian government has said that it has lost faith in the current Canadian government and its commitment to ensure the safety of the Indian diplomatic mission. Now, this is a significant development as the withdrawal of the High Commissioner and other diplomats by India basically indicates a significant downgrading of ties with Canada. Let's go straight across now to my colleague Siddhant Sibul, who's with us over the phone line. Siddhant, what more can you share with us, and what would this mean for the relationship between the two sides?
Well, it's a significant development. India recalling and withdrawing its ambassador, High Commissioner from Canada. Now, essentially, we saw all through the day action in terms of India slamming Canada, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, over, of course, the vote bank politics played by him. Now, essentially, we do expect a reaction coming from Canada, but ties are at their worst in many ways. Now, essentially, last year we saw the Canadian Prime Minister standing in the Parliament and saying that there are links between Indian governments, the agents of the Indian government, and the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, who is a listed terrorist in India. Now, essentially, no evidence has been provided, and now, of course, a simmering tension has come out in open with India withdrawing its High Commissioner.
Right, we're leaving it there for the moment. Siddhant, thanks very much for those details. We'll, of course, keep coming back to you as and when we know more. If you're just joining us, this is the latest that we've got for you. India has decided to recall its High Commissioner to Canada. As Siddhant was also elaborating for us what this really means for ties between the two sides. India has withdrawn its High Commissioner from Canada. This is after the Trudeau government there linked him and other Indian diplomats to an investigation where they are persons of interest. And the government, the Indian government, has said that it has lost faith in the current Canadian government. In an extraordinary move, China's top espionage agency, the Ministry of State Security, has reportedly released a television drama where foreign spies target China's brightest minds, its scientists. And reports say this TV series called The Dark Tide is Raging is not just some fictionalized TV plot. It reportedly closely mirrors real-life events. And what do we know about the content? The series, as per reports, follows the story of a scientist working on aerospace materials, a critical technology for China's defense. And then he falls victim to a foreign plot when spies sabotage his car, resulting in a deadly crash. And as it turns out, there is reportedly an uncanny resemblance to an incident relating to a Chinese colonel who used to spearhead China's AI software in military simulations. This colonel was reportedly traveling in a ride-hailing car leaving Beijing airport in July of last year when an accident took his life. The National University of Defense Technology, where the colonel worked, reportedly described his death as a sacrifice during an important mission, raising a lot of questions. Were foreign operatives involved? Was this more than just an accident? What really happened? In the TV series, The Dark Tide is Raging, a key character is reportedly an undercover national security officer who infiltrates a foreign spy network to expose the plot. So is China trying to send out a message to its citizens and to the world? And what is its intention? China's Ministry of State Security has reportedly been ramping up its presence on social media, reportedly to get ahead in what they see as an escalating spy war. So what's at stake here and how intense is the spy war between the two sides? Let's just look at the bigger picture. At the end of the day, this is about trying to control the narrative, shaping perceptions, and every move matters. In fact, according to a report in the Wall Street Journal, Beijing is conducting espionage on a scale that the world has not seen before. According to it, China is mobilizing not only state agencies, but also private companies and ordinary citizens to spy on rival states and boost China's economy. And the report further claims that the West, especially the US, is scrambling to keep up against Chinese spy operations. The FBI recently revealed that a Chinese state-linked firm hacked over 260,000 internet-connected devices across the world, including in the US, UK, France. And this includes devices like cameras and routers. And that's not even all. There are reports of Chinese agents infiltrating critical US infrastructure, allegedly. And just last month, a congressional probe reportedly found that Chinese cargo cranes used at US seaports were embedded with technology that could allow Beijing to control them remotely, allegedly. Can you believe that? And going back to the WSJ report, it says that China is trying to steal vast amounts of personal data to train advanced AI models, and to make matters worse, there is another headache for Western spy agencies. According to the Wall Street Journal report, China does not care about getting caught. China reportedly does not fret when one of its operatives is caught, knowing that its decentralized intelligence system is too massive to get crippled. Let's just tell you more in terms of numbers. Reportedly, the FBI estimates that Chinese hackers outnumber their cyber personnel 50 to 1. 50 to 1. A European intelligence agency reportedly suggested that China's intelligence apparatus could include as many as 600,000 people. And that is the scale of the operation that reportedly is nearly impossible to match for the West. And as the West figures out ways to tackle Chinese spying activities, one thing is clear: the spy wars between China and the US are only intensifying and come with far-reaching implications for the entire world. Our next story is about a builder and his deep-rooted connection with Bollywood. It's about power games, gang wars, and murder. The protagonist of this story is Baba Siddiqui. He was a politician, and his name was a prominent one in the world of politics, entertainment, and real estate. Baba Siddiqui has been shot dead. Jailed gangster Lawrence Bishnoi's gang has reportedly claimed responsibility for the killing. Remember, this is the same gang which had claimed responsibility for the murder of Punjabi singer Sidhu Moosewala back in 2022. According to reports, on the 12th of October, Siddiqui was gunned down by 3 individuals when he left from office to join a celebration after they allegedly arrived at the crime scene with their faces covered, pulled out guns, and allegedly fired 3 shots at Siddiqui. He was admitted to the hospital and succumbed to his injuries. Following the incident, a forensic team reportedly visited the crime scene, and Mumbai police reviewed the CCTV footage from the nearby areas. Now, so far, police have arrested 3 accused in the case: Gurmail Baljit Singh from Haryana, Dharmaraj Rajesh Kashyap from Uttar Pradesh, and Praveen Lonkar from Pune. All have claimed affiliation with the Lawrence Bishnoi gang. The Mumbai police has identified 6 individuals in connection with the murder. Investigators claim the plan to kill Siddiqui was masterminded in a Patiala jail by accused Mohammad Zishan Akhtar with the help of the Lawrence Bishnoi gang. The manhunt is on, and reports say that Siddiqui had one police constable guarding him when he was attacked. That's not all. 2 pistols and 28 live rounds have reportedly been recovered. The DCP of the crime branch has said that 15 police teams had been deployed across 6 states to trace those who provided logistical support. Who was Baba Siddiqui and what is his story? Well, Baba Siddiqui was a former Maharashtra minister. He reportedly built a rapport with the who's who of Bollywood and industry bigwigs. His parties were star-studded events. Siddiqui was also a builder. He reportedly helped develop Bandra into one of the prime real estate zones and also became an important figure of what is known as the builders' lobby. He reportedly influenced decisions for building projects, negotiate disputes between the developers and authorities, and much more. However, Siddiqui was caught in the eye of a storm when a post by actor and film critic Kamal R. Khan also known as KRK, accused Siddiqui of being involved in controversial dealings. With his post, even as the allegations remained unverified, it sparked a heated debate across prominent social media platforms. And that post on the platform X suggests a tiff between the D company and Siddiqui may have led to his demise. To give you a sense of the timeline of how things actually unfolded, the post points things back to 2013 when an alleged associate of underworld don named Chota Shakil and a businessman were arrested and charged under the Maharashtra Control of Organized Crime Act for allegedly threatening Siddiqui. Siddiqui had filed a police complaint and gotten security as well. The post also claimed the role of the D company behind Siddiqui's elimination, possibly for two reasons: not leaving few occupied properties to prove the group's continuing stronghold on the city of Mumbai. And years later to the claim the high-profile murder right in the financial capital of the country has led to the scrutiny of the law and order situation there. What's more, Siddiqui's murder also possibly highlights the long tug-of-war between high-profile gangs, the D Company and the Bishnoi gang. Siddiqui's killing marks the first high-profile political murder in Mumbai in nearly 3 decades. But does it really stop here? Or is the Bishnoi gang aiming for more? Bollywood actor Salman Khan has faced fresh threats from this gang, as reported by news agency PTI. In a 2023 interview, gang leader Bishnoi stated that Khan had disrespected the community by killing a black buck, an animal considered sacred to them. The gang members had already fired warning shots near Salman Khan's house to create an environment of fear. Remember, the Bishnoi gang has also threatened that anyone who helps actor Salman Khan will be in its crosshairs. Meanwhile, security has been tightened around Khan's house in Bandra. And now with Siddiqui gone and the Bishnoi gang owning up to the crime, will the gang war intensify further, or will there be fresh targets in the coming days? Is China's patience with Pakistan running out in light of recent attacks targeting Chinese nationals in Pakistan? As the Chinese Premier Li Qiang landed in Pakistan for a 4-day visit on Monday, the situation is far from routine diplomacy. Instead, it's one marred by escalating security concerns, particularly after the October 6 suicide bombing near Karachi's Jinnah International Airport, which claimed the lives of 2 Chinese nationals and injured several others. As per reports, this is not an isolated incident, but part of a troubling trend that casts serious doubts on whether Pakistan can reassure China about the safety of its citizens and investments. The visit of the Chinese premier is a high-stakes affair. As per reports, it is the first by a Chinese premier in over a decade, and its timing could not be more critical. He will be attending the 23rd Shanghai Cooperation Organization meeting, but one of the main focus points reportedly during his visit will be on how Pakistan intends to protect Chinese interests on its soil. Pakistan Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif reportedly gave assurances of personally overseeing the investigation into the Karachi attack. As per reports, Sharif himself went to the Rawalpindi airport and received the Chinese premier upon his arrival. As per reports, an unprecedented move and a departure from protocol. The Chinese premier was also reportedly given a 21-gun salute. But will Sharif's words and actions prove enough? Will they assure China, especially as Chinese investments under the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor continue to face severe threats? You see, we are not the ones saying this in isolation. As per reports, a recently released survey by the China Chamber of Commerce in Pakistan reveals just how dire the situation has become for Chinese businesses operating in the country. And as per the survey, the Business Climate Index for Chinese companies in Pakistan dropped to 49.63, sitting on the edge of pessimism, as the survey states. Is this figure just a number or a reflection of growing disillusionment among Chinese investors? The survey also highlighted that the problems are not merely about financial hurdles, but also about the fear of physical harm. Because a staggering 83.4% of the surveyed companies believe the security situation in Pakistan is worsening, with no signs of improvement in the near term. Remember, China is Pakistan's most critical economic ally. Their partnership under CPEC is reportedly one of the major focus points for Pakistan's economic revival. But how can that foundation remain firm when Chinese citizens are being targeted? And as you see, these attacks are not just impacting individual lives, they are shaking investor confidence. And if Pakistan cannot ensure the safety of Chinese workers, what kind of message does that really send out to investors? Security risks for Chinese companies operating in Pakistan is just one piece of the puzzle here. As per reports, the survey also highlighted other significant obstacles. Over 60% of the respondents reported that foreign exchange controls are making it difficult to repatriate profits. And these financial bottlenecks, combined with Pakistan's currency depreciation, are reportedly eroding the net assets of Chinese businesses. And to make matters worse, nearly 60% of the companies cited inconsistent policies and poor implementation as critical issues affecting their operations. When the rules keep changing, how can businesses plan for the future is the question. And is the lack of policy continuity not as damaging as the security situation? It is a well-known fact that investors need stability and predictability. And right now, it seems Pakistan is not offering either. The depreciation of the Pakistani rupee only worsens the situation. According to reports, 56.3% of surveyed companies stated that their net assets have significantly declined when measured in US dollars. How can Pakistan expect to maintain, let alone expand, Chinese investment under such conditions? And amid this prevailing scenario, the Chinese Premier's visit may not just be about diplomacy. It could also be about Pakistan's survival, both economically and politically. Reports say if Pakistan cannot protect Chinese lives and interests, it risks losing its most important ally at a time when it can least afford to do so. CPEC is reportedly a linchpin in China's Belt and Road Initiative, and any instability in Pakistan threatens to undermine the entire project. And what's more, it could push China to reconsider its long-term commitments to Pakistan. Pakistan now stands at a crucial juncture. Can it reassure China? The answer is far from clear, and the clock is ticking for Pakistan. China is escalating its military presence around Taiwan, meanwhile, sending a clear message of aggression and intimidation. And in a blatant display of force, the Chinese military has concluded fresh drills involving fighter jets and warships. Our next story explains how these drills mark a significant escalation in tensions between the two sides.
A menacing display of military power. China deploys a staggering 125 military aircraft and 17 warships around Taiwan. These war machines are a chilling new round of military exercises across 9 strategic zones near the island, including the critical Taiwan Strait. Beijing's message is clear. These maneuvers, aimed at assaulting maritime and ground targets, are a stark warning to Taipei and a brutal reminder of China's claim over the island. Taiwan independence and peace in the Taiwan Strait are irreconcilable. The provocations from pro-independence forces will inevitably face countermeasures. The drills, named Joint Sword 2024B, showcase China's military might as it tests the full spectrum of its joint combat capabilities. The aggressive military drills have left Taiwan on high alert while keeping its allies on edge. Chinese fleets are encircling the island in an intimidating clockwise movement, positioning themselves as a constant looming threat. China has increased the frequency of its warplane incursions into Taiwan's air defense zone, a move that underscores Beijing's growing readiness to trigger potential conflict.
Exercises to the south of the island aimed to strike at the heart of Taiwan independence forces. Those in the eastern air and sea zones were intended to block 3 critical routes: the lifeline for energy imports, external support line for separatists, and escape lines for those attempting to evade punishment.
Since President Lai Ching-te assumed office in May, he has stood firm on Taiwan's sovereignty, a stance that has inflamed Beijing. The latest drills mark China's 4th large-scale show of force in just 2 years, with Beijing bluntly declaring that Taiwan's independence and peace are irreconcilable. As the aggressive exercises unfold, China's intentions are clear. It is prepared to act and willing to escalate. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
And for our next story, we want to begin by asking, is Europe getting tired of Zelensky? We know Ukraine's demand for long-range weapons has, in a way, fallen on deaf ears in NATO countries, and now it looks like some of Ukraine's closest allies are withdrawing support one by one. According to reports, Germany is halting supply of heavy combat vehicles and equipment to war-battered Ukraine. You heard that right. One of Ukraine's largest weapon supplier, Germany, will no longer send heavy equipment to Kiev. German tabloid newspaper Bild has reported this, citing government documents, and it looks like there is doubt within the German Ministry of Defense about whether Ukraine will be able to launch a significant offensive against Russia and reclaim its territory soon. And as a result, after delivering 18 Leopard 2 tanks, no additional tanks or heavy equipment such as infantry fighting vehicles, armored personnel carriers, and self-propelled howitzers will be sent to Ukraine. This is big. And what's more, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has also reportedly evaded the Ukrainian president's questions on whether Ukraine will be accepted into NATO. Despite Zelensky's trip across Europe to secure military support, the German Chancellor reportedly promised the Ukrainian leader nothing. Scholz promised Zelensky nothing on long-range weapons deliveries. He promised Zelensky nothing on Ukraine's NATO bid. In fact, Zelensky's trip across Europe has been described as a fiasco. The German tabloid reports that Zelensky had 2 main goals in mind when he embarked on this tour of meetings with Western leaders. Number 1 was obtaining permission to use Western weapons to strike strategic targets deep in Russia, weapons that basically would include the German Taurus missiles. And number 2, secure the promise of a speedy NATO accession for Ukraine. On both fronts, it seems Zelensky was left high and dry. Bild describes the results as pretty poor, reporting that the 2 Ukrainian demands fell on deaf ears in Berlin. While the German Chancellor did not say a definite no to Zelensky, there was no positive response from him either, according to the paper. And if that wasn't enough, Zelensky was reportedly unable to meet with US President Joe Biden as he remained stateside to monitor the Category 5 Hurricane Milton as it ravaged Florida. And still, Zelensky's visit to Germany was not completely futile. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz announced a 1.4 billion euro military aid package for Ukraine by the end of 2024. That's $1.53 billion worth of aid. Scholz told Zelensky the package was a signal to Russia that the West would not stop supporting Kiev. Remember, Zelensky has been meeting allies in Europe to present his victory plan, so-called victory plan, to end the war with Russia. And the details of the plan have not been divulged publicly, but Reuters cites US officials describing it as a repackaged request for more weapons and a lifting of restrictions on the use of long-range missiles. Germany is Ukraine's second biggest donor of military aid, but Scholz has balked at equipping Ukraine with long-range Taurus missiles and made no mention of them in his remarks. Ukrainian officials have repeatedly asked Germany to provide the Taurus missiles, which can hit targets as far as 500 kilometers away. Despite heated debate and back and forth in Berlin on the issue, Scholz has so far refused to oblige, citing escalation concerns. He has argued that the deliveries of Taurus missiles would only be tenable if Berlin could determine the targets itself. But you see, doing so would mean that Germany would become a direct participant in the war. And if that happens, NATO countries would be in direct confrontation with Russia, as the US-led military bloc follows the principle of collective defense, which basically means that an attack against one ally is an attack against all allies. And so far, Russian President Vladimir Putin has said that if the West decides to allow Ukraine to use Western long-range weapons to strike Russia, it will basically mean that NATO is waging war against Moscow. After 2 years of warning the West, Putin has also ordered an update of Russia's nuclear strategy. For Russia now, any aggression against Russia by any non-nuclear state, but with the participation or support of a nuclear state, shall be regarded as a joint attack. In such a case, Moscow will not stand down for now. Such an action by the West would see Russia respond with a nuclear weapon, with Russia drawing a nuclear red line, a new nuclear red line, and with the NATO wary of joining another war. It looks like the West is getting tired of supporting Ukraine. The West is already withdrawing support in a way. Will they abandon Ukraine next? We will have to wait and watch for that answer. On to some updates coming in literally from out of this world. NASA has just launched a historic mission to Jupiter's moon. NASA launching its spacecraft from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. This is a $5 billion mission aiming to explore Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, to investigate whether it could harbor conditions that are suitable for life. This is a massive mission, a significant one when it comes to exploring whether or not there is life beyond planet Earth. This is the spacecraft which will be exploring Jupiter's icy moon Europa. And this is a mission to understand how habitable the satellite is. It, remember, has a vast salty ocean wrapped in a thick crust. But is it habitable? As far as life is concerned, this is the manhunt for life beyond planet Earth. And this mission takes that search a step further. Remember, SpaceX has also been monitoring temperatures on the second stage of the Falcon Heavy, and SpaceX's a strong back support device for the Falcon Heavy launch. In fact, as per reports, we also know that the spacecraft will be exploring the icy moon. This is to understand whether or not it is habitable for life. This rocket will be launching the $5 billion Europa Clipper towards Jupiter from NASA's Kennedy Space Center. And it has already, in fact, launched that Europa Clipper towards Jupiter. The mission will place a spacecraft in orbit around Jupiter in order to perform a detailed investigation of Europa. This basically would mean that there will be exploration of evidence for an ocean of liquid water beneath the icy crust, and which could host conditions favorable for life. The mission will send a highly capable has already sent that highly capable radiation-tolerant spacecraft into a long looping orbit around Jupiter to perform repeated close flybys of the icy moon. Spacecraft, which is NASA's largest ever built for a planetary mission, will be traveling 2.9 million light years. The destination set for Jupiter as far as this Clipper mission is concerned. The spacecraft's objective, as we mentioned, is to reveal new details about Europa, a moon that is thought to contain liquid water, but whether or not that is a fact is yet to be ascertained. Are you a Gmail user? And if yes, you might want to take note. Cyber criminals are not just after your money anymore. They are coming for your personal data as well, and they are getting smarter. And in this specific case, criminals are allegedly using artificial intelligence to target Gmail users and steal sensitive data. Gmail, remember, is the most popular email service in the world with over 2.5 billion users. That makes it a hotspot for scammers. A new tactic is making waves among cyber criminals. It is called the super realistic AI scam call. The scam is so convincing, even cybersecurity experts have been fooled. Case in point being cybersecurity professional Sam Mitrovic, who almost fell for the scam. It all started when Mitrovic received a fake email that looked like a Gmail account recovery notification. Mitrovic initially ignored it, but then got a phone call that seemed to be from Google Sydney. And it did not stop there. A week later, he got another fake Gmail recovery email, followed by a call from a number that matched Google support page. This time, the caller, claiming to be from Google, warned him that his account had been accessed and data was being stolen. And now Mitrovic knew something was odd. And what gave it away? Well, for one, he knew scammers could fake phone numbers, and then there was the voice on the other end. It sounded a little too perfect, and when the caller repeated hello in a way that was almost robotic, Mitrovic realized he was talking to an AI-generated voice. So how does this scam actually work? Let's break it down for you. It starts with an email that looks like it's from Gmail, a fake account recovery notification that urges you to act fast. And what's the goal? To make you panic and think your account is in danger. But that's just the first step. If you ignore the email, scammers don't give up. They take it to the next level with a phone call. And this is where it gets really sneaky. The call comes from what looks like a legitimate number, maybe even from Google's official support page. The caller sounds like a professional. They will tell you that someone has been accessing your Gmail account for days, downloading your data. And now here's where the real trick comes in. The voice on the other end, it's actually artificial intelligence. The AI generates a voice so realistic that you would never suspect it wasn't a human being. The scammers might even send a follow-up email to verify the call. But if you look closely, the email address might be hiding a fake domain, something like Gmail with the numeric 1 instead of the letter, or Google with 3 O's instead of 2. The scammers play on your trust in a way, in recognizable brands, and create a seamless web of emails, phone calls, AI-generated voices to convince you it's legitimate. And what's their ultimate goal? To get you to hand over your passwords, personal details, or click on a link that gives them access to your account. So what can you do? First things first, stay alert. Google rarely calls users about their accounts. Unless you are dealing with Google business profiles, it's usually a red flag if they do. And if you get a call claiming to be from support, double check the number using apps like Truecaller and check if there are any spam reports for the phone number. And finally, make sure you regularly check your Gmail for any strange activity like suspicious logins from unknown devices and locations. Remember, in this digital age, the data is the new gold, with cyber crooks using sophisticated technologies to fool potential victims. It's important to be aware and stay vigilant when it comes to the online world. With that, it's a wrap on this edition. Thanks very much for watching.